guys that tune down really low probably don't. I think Zach Wildy's like a 70 or something for his E string low, you know. And that's my B string is a 60, so I guess I'm a limp next to Zach, but I think anybody is really.
When you pick closer to the bridge like that, do you modify your muting technique, or?
Well, that's a good question too, because actually when you get back there that far, you're not muting anymore, because you don't have nothing to mute with, so that just means you've got to be that much cleaner. So I guess it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's funny because a lot of guys will ask me about that, because most of the time when I'm picking really fast, I don't do the Paul Gilbert really heavy palm muted sound.
Do you tense your arm when you do that?
I'm sorry?
Do you tense your arm when you do that?
You know, I'm really not 100% sure on every detail when I'm going that fast. I know that it sometimes looks like I'm picking from my elbow, but it's not 100% accurate because the picking motion in my wrist becomes so small that all you see is that it looks like my elbow is moving. So I think it's really, honestly, a combination of wrist and elbow. And I know there's all those rules about, never play from your elbow or whatever, but really I think in reality, each and every guitar player is uniquely different and you have to find what works for you. And I've spent years studying all the greatest guitar players in the world, and every single one of them do it differently. I mean, you can watch Badio, who's got some of the sickest picking ever, and he does something like this, and his pick goes over it. Paul Gilbert holds his hand like this, and Vinnie Moore holds his fingers out, and I could continue to naming guys, but they all do it differently. But I think an important factor is that I haven't mentioned yet is that none of this. If you can't, no matter how you hold your pick, or whether you do it like Vinnie, Yngwie, Paul, whoever, the one thing that all of those guys do have in common is that there's no finger or thumb movement. Okay? Because if you start doing any joint movement in your thumb or fingers, then you're only going to be able to pick as fast as you can flick your fingers. And that's not going to be the speed I think you guys want to play, obviously, if you're mic playing. So, whatever, it's a tough subject. So there's a fine line in what is okay and what's not. Everybody has to sit down and look at your own playing and find out if they're doing just something that's obviously wrong in there, then it needs to be addressed. But if it's working, go with it. It's not broken, don't fix it. Just make sure you're not doing any of this. That's the bottom line. And yeah, when you're picking way back here like this, there's no muting because this part of my thumb is on the bridge. All right. Any other questions on picking?
What kind of a pick do you use?
I use these little yellow see-through ones by Jim Dunlop. They're extra heavies, and I believe they call them gel picks. And I think you get them at Guitar Center. They're pretty cool. And that's another thing, it's not broken, don't fix it. I've used this size picks forever. I've experimented with using the Jazz 3s and all the little picks that so many of the great pickers use, and I just can't do it. It works okay for picking for me, but for rhythm guitar, then I don't have enough pick to dig in with. And I think the little ones produce a different tone for me, and I don't like the sound of the little Jazz 3s. You have a question?
How thick are they?
Well, they're extra heavies, so it's just a Fender style pick, really. So if you've ever felt like a Fender extra heavy, I can tell you this much: I don't know the millimeters on them, but they don't bend. You know what I mean? If I really go like that, I can bend it. But if you're using that much pressure when you're alternate picking, then you have some problems you need to address. So yeah, that's really all I need. I've seen those big purple ones that are like friggin' half the size of a notebook, and I don't know. You just don't need that, man. At least I don't. If it's working for you, go with it, dude. All right. So I guess we'll hit another page. You guys are ready to move on? Yeah, let's go ahead and do this page. We'll go to the next page. First thing you should see is E7 sharp 11. This is actually going to be what will be in my first column for Premier Guitar. By the way, the column's called Fierce Guitar. And this is, a matter of fact, every arpeggio on this page is derived from the Lydian flat 7 mode, which is mode 4 melodic minor. And it's got a pretty cool sound. We're going to be doing some tapping. The first lick is all legato. The T2 and T3 represents, well, T2 and T3 on your right hand, okay? And if you guys are not familiar with tapping with more than one finger, the big suggestion to get started with this one would be just to practice one string at a time to develop the roll, because that's essentially what you're doing, a roll. 2 fingers on the left hand, 2 fingers on the right hand. So you're getting a cool 4 note per string idea. And I take kind of the pad of my thumb, or whatever you want to call that area, and kind of rest it on my guitar. And part of my hand will mute the low B string, and will continue to mute the strings as I ascend across higher into the next string. So that continues to keep the notes below what I'm playing quiet. And this is another good thing that relates to really all of your playing. Your left hand index finger should be muting the notes above what you're playing. So this way both hands cover all notes above and below whatever string you're on. So the left hand index finger kind of always looks like it's, if you guys can see that, kind of looks like it's always doing some kind of a bar. But I'm just lightly letting my index finger fall across the upper strings to deaden those strings. So the lick. E13, sharp 11. So you start with an up pick, sweep, 1 down pick for 3 strings, hammer on, down, 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 up, pull off, up, pull off, up, down. And that's a nice extended arpeggio. I mean, they're all pretty much extended arpeggios, which you don't hear a lot of guys doing. You know, most guys that sweep pick, they start off with just triads, 3 strings, 4 strings, 5. And the really classically influenced things, or the metalcore guys are just doing sweeping triads. So, you know, there's a lot you can do with sweep picking. You should take advantage of that by exploring extended scale tones as arpeggios. You get some really unique sounds. And on to the next one. Any questions? No? Okay. So this is an E7 sharp 11. And even though I go out of position with this one, it's not really more extended. It stops with the sharp 11. I'm actually doing a full on 13 on number 2 in one position. And this is pretty cool. So we actually move up. Now even though on the 4th string that slide, it's really a position shift. We're still going to pick, okay? But your finger changes position. So what I did there was I just tied 2 and 3 together. I did the E13 sharp 11 and an E7 sharp 11. All right, and number 4, this one I just go ahead and call the sharp 11, or the raised 4 and the flat 5th, so it's E9 flat 5, and harmonically sharp 4 and flat 5, the same thing. Why did I change it up in the middle of it? I don't know. It's just the way I was thinking that day. And nothing more in depth than that. So we're going to use the flat 5. So the picking on number 4 is exactly the same the shifts, okay? And just taking advantage of that. Try Alright, and I dig the way those sound. You know, there's some great sounds and tonalities that you can get within the melodic minor stuff. And it's very well worth exploring. All right, number 5 is a, I didn't really name this one. It's still the Lydian flat 7 sound, and I didn't really put a name on it because it's borrowing a bunch of notes. It's kind of all over in the scale. Okay, so it stays diatonic E Lydian flat 7, and we're going to be doing some 4-string sweeping. And there's no hammer-ons or pull-offs in this lick, so it's just one up, or one down and one up. So what that means is the highest and lowest notes, once you get started, are repeat notes. Okay. And if I can play this one today. I think that one's harder to play slow. All right, some E Lydian fun. Is any questions about any of that madness?
Is it really harder to play slow?
Yeah, actually, I think so, because when you're playing it slow, you really, I mean, if you're trying to play it in time slow, you got, you know, with that sweep, it's like, it's kind of a pain, especially with that double pick on top and below. So yeah, I think once you're ripping on it, it's a heck of a lot easier. Might not seem like that now, but trust me, it will.
Rusty, when did you start playing?
I started playing on my 15th birthday.
That's what I heard. I was like,
Yeah, it's true, man. And you know, I kind of consider starting at 15 to be late. You know,
Yeah.
especially when all my guitar heroes at that time had been playing since they were 6 or 7. You know, Gilbert started when he was 6. Yeah.
I was going to ask who your guitar heroes are.
Yeah, good question. Paul Gilbert. Starting in the beginning. Let me go back. My first real guitar hero was Randy Rhoads. Just loved Rhoads, man. He was awesome. And back then, most guys were either Rhoads or Van Halen. I love Eddie Van Halen, but Rhoads, dude, Rhoads kicks ass. So, and it was, and until Yngwie came out, it was Randy Rhoads or death. I mean, I was that diehard Rhoads fan. And then I heard Yngwie, and man, if any of you guys, you guys are all pretty young, but back when Yngwie came out, which a lot of players nowadays don't understand because there's so many good players out there, but when Yngwie came out, nobody played like that. I mean, the closest guy physically to that in rock or metal would be Randy or Eddie or Lynch or any of those LA guys. And next to like Demiola or Holdsworth, you know what I mean? So in rock and roll and metal, nobody played like that. I mean, he was the first guy to sweep pick, and I'm not talking about those old blues dudes doing rakes. That's not sweep picking, man. I mean, at least not in that kind of area. So Malmsteen really changed the way guitar players thought. So it was Yngwie, and then I became really into Vi, and then just the whole shrapnel crew: Jason Becker, Marty Friedman, Darren Householder, Scott Stein, Derek Taylor, Todd Duane, Scotty Michaud. I've always been a huge Demiola fan, Alan Holdsworth, Sean Lane. I don't know, that's all I'm thinking of right now. As far as guitar players, there's been plenty of guitar players that I've been influenced by in bands. I kind of always separate. It's like when I listen to shredding guys, it usually seems like the guys that play in bands don't shred as hard as I want to hear it. You know, so it depends on what kind of mood I'm in. It depends on what level of player that I want to hear. And that's another interesting point that I'd like to make. When I was a kid, when you listen to guitar players, you had to listen to many different guitar players to get all of the techniques. Because guitar players back in the 80s and whatnot were usually known for one thing. You know, this guy's a tapper, or this guy's a legato player, or this guy's really good at bolster picking. And for me, I always made it a point in my playing that I wanted to be good at all of them. I don't want to just be a legato guy or a tapper or a sweep picker or whatever. I want to do all of it, and I want to do it all just as good as anybody. So that when somebody listens to me, they get the whole deal. You don't have to go listen to somebody else to get that. Now, you might not want to hear shredding all the time, and you